Hey guys, Comet here. Welcome back to Oxygen Not Included. In the last episode, I put in this Dreco Ranch here. It hasn't quite fully populated between episodes. I do have a lot of eggs incubating here, so hopefully over the course of this episode it fills out a little bit more. Not much has happened between episodes. I've just got my chefs going on overtime here. I've even assigned a few of these bionic duplicants some boosters to help out. I've also put in some brackine processing here, so I'm actually making brack wax. And I didn't realize this, but if you click on a transit tube access point once you have brack wax, you can enable this smooth ride option, which actually gives a 25% speed increase to any duplicant using this access point, which means they can get anywhere on the map 25% faster, which is actually crazy on a big map like this. I only have it selected over on these transit tubes. So if we take a look at Mima here, she just got sprayed with some brack wax. So right here, she has this smooth rider buff. So on all of these transit tube access points here in the housing unit, I'm using brack wax to speed up my duplicants. And if there's a dev watching this, please give a copy function like the sinks have. Give it to the transit tube access point so that I can copy the smooth ride and paste it over all of the other ones. I don't want to have to go through and individually click on all of these to enable smooth ride. That would take forever. I also finally put in that nature reserve I was talking about a few episodes ago. So my duplicants get +6 morale just from walking through here. And because I'm using Buddy Buds, they get a nice little floral scent bonus, which relieves 5% stress per cycle. So what I'd like to do in this episode, I want to get this cool steam vent and this cool steam vent connected in to the main water supply here. I also found this saltwater geyser. I'll probably connect that in. I don't want to connect in the polluted water. I'm probably going to save that for later. I have plenty of polluted water. This is actually overflowing. I've started processing a little bit of it back into clean water, just because I have the sand net to do it now. And then I also want to start taking on a lot more duplicates. So this housing unit is full. So I'm going to come over to this side over here and put in a second unit. I'm probably not going to have enough time to fully populate it in this episode. And then one of the last things I want to do is put in, maybe in this area right here, an industrial complex where I can make tons and tons of steel. That way, in the next episode, I can get into space. I also exposed this geyser and this geyser here, and those are actually the last two. I have basically the entire map uncovered now. A little bit of dark area in here, but I don't think there's a geyser hiding anywhere in there. I suppose I could put a ladder straight through there to find out for sure. But I want to come over to this side and expose this and expose this. Now I've already got a cool steam vent design I've used back over here, and this has been working, so I think I'm just gonna copy this and paste it on top of the other two. Buried object was discovered here. You are a cool slush geyser. More polluted water. Great. Don't need that. This one is a copper volcano. So I've got 1, 2, 3... total of 3 copper volcanoes. I've got 1 iron volcano, 2 iron volcanoes, and then 1 gold volcano here. And you have done a fantastic job of trapping yourself. So this is just my standard cool steam vent tamer. I'll go over the overlays really quickly. I'm just using polluted water as a coolant. Right now, I'm running the clean water back into the steam room here, just to top this off. But Eventually, once that's full, I'm going to send it back over to the main line to be processed here. So I'm just going to copy this one more time and stick it on top of this geyser here. And there is geyser number 2 captured. Same overlay, just mirrored. So that's plumbing, and then this is automation. Now, with all of that free, clean water from those 2 geysers, I can think about putting in the second housing unit here without worrying about oxygen production. This will undoubtedly take my duplicants a very long time to clear out, so I'll be back when they are done with this. So that was quick and painless. It definitely did not take several hours for them to complete this. So step 2 is complete. I have space for more duplicants. Step 1 finished earlier, getting more water for oxygen. Now step 3, I'm going to start taking on more duplicants. So in a little over 2 cycles, we'll take our first one. Now, step 3 is to give them a place to work. I think over in this area is a good spot. So this will be a very important piece of infrastructure. It's going to house all of the industrial machinery with some liquid locks here to prevent any heat exchange. So up top, there will be some steam turbines. Looks like I could fit about 8 before I run into this natural gas geyser here. This whole room in here is just going to be a really, really hot box. Now, a lot of people call this a industrial brick. Here, we're going to call it the manufacturing hub. I think I'm going to trademark that. So there's 4 main ways of doing this. You can have a clean or dirty, and then you could have a hot or cold. Now, all of my CO2 producing buildings are over here, so there's no reason to make this dirty. This entire room here will be completely filled with just steam, so that covers the second point. This is going to be a hot manufacturing hub. And by leaving a vacuum in this gap here, no heat can get from this box out to the environment. So there is the first duplicant that we've been waiting for. And Ren here is almost perfect already for my building operator. The only thing I'm going to change is suit wearing to supplying. And then obviously the traits need to change. Alright, welcome to the base. Let's print you. And immediately get you moved over to the new housing unit. I gotta change priorities here. So every new duplicant now will have access here. But every old duplicant will not. And then I should actually also move over some of the bionic duplicants. I forgot to do that. So let's give these 3 some custom permissions. And then come back over here and restrict their access. And that'll force them over into this area. So I'll just keep taking on duplicants in the background. Let's get in the plumbing for this. I want there to be a constant upward flow of steam, which means the clean water has to end up on the bottom. So then the outputs of all these steam turbines can come out and down into here. And I'll also need some aqua tuners to cool off these turbines. Looks like I am out of steel. That's not good. I do have this temporary setup down here I'm still using. Okay, so let's do a little bit more steel here. These will eventually be moved into the area I'm setting up here. This top floor up here, I think I'll dedicate to the aquatuners. Then I could have all of my metal refining, and then maybe rock crushers, and then glass forges, and then something else down here. I'm not too sure what I could put there yet. And then to get the liquid lock in place, I think I'm just going to put a vent right here in the middle. And run some crude oil. Got a very convenient pipe right here. Just into all of these vents. So now I can start working on the vacuum I need in this area. And also power. I should very easily be able to sneak heavy wet wire through there. That's convenient. That'll hit all of the machinery in here. Oh, there is another one. Could maybe take on a Bonnie. I think I'll also turn you into a builder operator. We'll go ahead and print you. Welcome to the base. I do also need to make a vacuum down in this room. So I only want steam to be here. And this might be a little overkill, but I think I'm going to put in some granite shift plates through here. Just to help stabilize and smear temperature. Looks like we got another option here. Can take on maybe a Frankie. Alright, welcome to the base, Frankie. Oh, there's another one. So let's take on maybe an Otto. And you can help out with some building later on. Time for another one. I think I'll take on probably just another operator. Let's maybe take an Ellie. I'm actually going to need a lot of operators to run all of the machinery I plan on putting in the manufacturing hub. So we'll go ahead and print you. And start thinking about the cooling loop. I'll have one aquatuner here, and one aquatuner here. So this will be its own independent loop, and then this will be its own independent loop. So I think I'll just copy what I did down lower. So something like this for every single refinery should be perfectly fine. And I could just fill these up with petroleum or crude oil, doesn't really matter. This reservoir can't be made out of gold amalgam, that would break. It's just a placeholder for now. These eventually need to be swapped over to steel. And by doing it this way, I can put in a whole bunch of water down at the bottom, and then these metal refineries can output their heat into the water. At the very bottom, it'll turn into steam, float up, heat up the temp shift plates that are very cold still, condense, fall back down, right? The water is always going to be condensing down at the bottom, so I need to get heat into the bottom area. So I think starting with the refineries here is the best way to get this up and running, and I'm probably just going to leave them here. Then I can have one layer for rock crushers, one layer for glass forges, and then maybe even some kilns. Or I could put those in the middle by the metal refineries there. And kilns don't actually have an overheat temperature, so it doesn't matter what they're made out of. They only have a melting point. Now I could take on a Devon. I'm curious, do I still need more ranchers? Are any of these critters glum? A couple of them are. How about back over here? These are all glum. Oh, these are all glum. Looks like I have a lot of glum critters still. That means I don't have enough ranchers. So I'll take on a Devon here, but instead of being a builder-operator, he will be a rancher-farmer. Alright, who do I want now? I think I want to move the bionic duplicants I have cooking right now into other tasks. So, Amari here already is interested in cooking. That gives me an idea. I'll take a third chef. And I'm almost positive I should never need another chef. I'll be totaling right around 50 duplicants by the end of this. And 3 chefs should be plenty, especially if they're cooking higher quality meals. Now, this is a really cool effect to watch. Once you get very few micrograms left, the vacuum propagates backwards. You can see all the individual gases collapsing. And just like that, we've got a vacuum now. That means it is time to hook up some water. So I think I'll just put in an extra pump here. Go straight up into right here. I'll also get in some bridges to fill these lines up with some crude oil. Just borrow a little bit from that pipe there. I also need to get in some polluted water to this line to cool that off. And I think I'll just steal it from this. This is what's supplying the arbitries. They won't mind. Now I don't need these gas pumps anymore. These can go. Alright, but now that I've got some water in here, what I can start doing is queuing up a bunch of steel. We're gonna do that forever. And then on these over here, I'm gonna do iron forever. I don't need these down here anymore. I can get rid of these. And then just vent the oil is fine. It's gonna take a long time for this to heat up. But I do need to make a ton of steel. Well, not a literal ton, more than a literal ton. Because in the next episode, I definitely want to get into the space biome. And that's going to take a lot of steel to protect everything with either bunker tiles or bunker doors. I also need to make the glass forge. That way I can get into solar panels, now that I will have access to space. So let's drop in a whole bunch of these. And then their outputs can just, I guess, come over to right here is fine. And I'd rather not the liquid glass flow through the mesh tile. I'd rather it sit on top of an airflow tile. Now that the cooling fluid is coming in, I need to think about what to set these to. I don't actually want them to turn on yet, otherwise the aqua tuners will just overheat. I need this room to fill up with steam first. So if this is ever below 0, for now, I need to swap these reservoirs over to steel, now that I've made a little bit of steel. Then for these kilns in the middle, I've already got that ceramic plant back over here, so I don't need to make ceramic. Set these to refined carbon to keep steel going. It's so cool to watch the steam clouds slowly keep expanding as things heat up. So with these doing iron and steel over there, I can set this one to maybe do copper and gold. And then this one could be aluminum and maybe nickel ore? And I don't know where I picked up some wolframite, but we'll go ahead and do that one too. I think down here is a good spot for the rock crushers. So I don't actually need these here anymore. Looks like Steam's made it up to the aqua tuner here, so I'll turn this on. If the area by the steam turbines is ever above, about 25-ish degrees, go ahead and turn on. I don't know what else I could put in here for this top floor here. Oh, I could put the polymer presses. Yeah, that's a good idea. So these consume 833 grams of plastic monomer, so that's their input. And if I take the 10 kilograms per second a pipe can handle, divide that by the 833, it gives me 12 presses off of one pipe. Can I fit 12 in here? Well, that is a definite yes. The only problem now, what do I do with the CO2? I can't put it back over here. A gas vent won't work here. It's over 600 kilos of pressure. These slicksters are really not keeping up. But that's a future problem. I think what I'm gonna do is actually just drop it off over here. As you can see, I've kind of given up on trying to control CO2 pressure. I had to put in extra natural gas generators. I was having some power problems, so alongside getting into space, I really need to set up some solar panels just for all the free power. And so this here is perfect for that because I get steel and glass, and those are really the big two things you need for space. Oh, looks like the turbines have turned on now. That means it should be quite warm down here. Oh yeah, almost 200. With petroleum, I need to take from here, but I do want power to have the priority, not plastic. So right here, I'm going to put in some bridge priority, and then come out this way. Well, that's annoying. Who put this pipe here? I can't bridge over without releasing heat. Maybe we come in from the bottom instead. And I have to use insulated piping for this, because the petroleum, if we look here, it's only at 90 degrees. So it would actually cool this room off. I don't want it to do that. And then technically, these polymer presses do output a tiny bit of steam, but it'll just get added to all the steam that's already in here. Why? Why do I have sour gas? There's no way something in here got above 400 degrees. Oh, I know what happened. Okay. So a duplicate picked up some glass, and then ran it through the liquid lock, and because there's so little crude oil in these tiles here, it was able to... Ah, damn it. Okay. So as a precaution, add a little bit more crude oil if you're doing this. Yep, that's something I should have seen beforehand. New printable, though. Let's take on another operator. How about... I haven't taken on a meep yet. Let's take on a meep. Alright, let's print you. You know, it's quite nice to see all of these productive duplicants now. I think in these spaces between all of the refineries, because the duplicants are going to be spending so much time here, I'm going to put in some statues to try and counteract some of this negative decor. Alright, how's decor looking now? It's okay in some spots. It's definitely not as bad as it used to be. Wow! I'm overloading the circuit. That means on the main heavy watt conductive wire, I'm drawing more than 50 kilowatts. That's crazy. This is a lot of power. I did actually anticipate that happening. From the beginning, I planned on having 2 separate power spines, one for each side of the map. But all of my power production is on this side. So once I get up into space in the next episode and put in solar panels, I'll have the option of splitting up the 2 grids, and then if I zoom out a little bit, I know I'm going to want a regolith melter on this side and a regolith melter on this side. I don't know how big they're going to be. Because the map is wider than normal, I think I might be able to fit 2 and 2. And then I like to put the rockets all the way in the corners on both sides. And then across the top, there'll be that thin layer of solar panels. So I don't know if I'll have space for maybe like a battery bank here, and then a battery bank here for the 2 sides. Because I don't want to just straight up double this in order to power the right side of the map. But if I have more overloading problems, I'm going to have to do that. I'm noticing some liquid naphtha down here where the polymer presses output. And I think it's because the petroleum that's being delivered is too warm. But I can test that by putting in cooler petroleum. And if it still comes out as naphtha instead of plastic, then I know it's because the machine itself is too hot, not because of the input material. So let's see here. Do these make plastic or naphtha? That looks like plastic to me. So it's not dependent on the temperature of the machine, but the temperature of the incoming petroleum. That's good. That means I don't have to completely remove all these. Now, I could theoretically run into a scenario where the plastic sits in this room for too long, gets up to 160, and then melts. It does have a very low thermal conductivity, which means it would take a long time. But if I don't get the plastic out fast enough, it will eventually melt. So I'm just going to use some auto sweepers. And I can make these out of steel now. I got plenty of steel. I want to ship that plastic out, and just dropping it off here by these steam turbines where they're actively cooled, I think is the best spot for it. I don't need to do the same thing for the glass and the metals. They can't melt. And trying to fit in an auto sweeper is not really possible at this point. So I've cleaned up the locks over here. This amount of crude oil can't flash if they bring something hot through it. So no heat should be escaping now. It's a perfect vacuum here. I want to test the petroleum thing one more time. A little paranoid. Because if this doesn't work, then I have to come up with a new place to put all of these. So the floor is clean. That made plastic, that made plastic. It looks like it's working. The petroleum inside the machine only gets to about 102. It flashes there for a second. But these over here, these are making a lot of naphtha because their petroleum is at 178. Why is their petroleum so warm? Oh, I think I know what happens. So when I disconnect this, and the petroleum stops flowing, there's not enough petroleum to do a full batch of plastic. So the leftover petroleum just sits inside the machine and heats up. So then the next time it gets some more petroleum again, it goes ahead and completes that batch. But the petroleum is too hot, so it just comes out as naphtha. So unless these are running all the time, this won't work. They have to be actively cooled so that the petroleum inside the polymer press can never heat up in between batches, which actually really sucks. Right? Guess I don't need this plumbing then. I think I might come back to that problem once I'm actually making enough petroleum to do both power and plastic. Because right now I don't have enough petroleum to supply it anyway, so spending all that time to put it in just to not have any material to work with is kind of pointless. I think the next step, after getting into space and setting up all the space infrastructure with the rockets, I want to bring back some space materials, mainly thermium. Well, technically I don't bring back thermium, I bring back niobium. Thermium will allow me to do some really cool things. The biggest being a petroleum boiler, so instead of using these oil refineries here, I can set up a petroleum boiler with a thermium aquatuner. It can get up to temperature to boil the crude oil into petroleum, and then I would get 100% of the mass instead of only 50% of the mass. So from the same two crude oil pipes, I could have one full pipe of petroleum going to power, and then one full pipe of petroleum going to plastic. But all of that is still a little ways away. I'm pretty happy with this design here. I've got quite a few metal refineries going. I'm definitely going to have enough steel for space expansion in the next episode. I took on quite a few duplicants. They're starting to populate this housing unit now. So I will need to take on a lot more in the next few episodes. It's going to take a while to fully populate this. I think between episodes, I might go ahead and capture this saltwater geyser and this polluted water vent here, just to get a little bit of extra water to work with. I'm noticing my polluted water is actually dropping. The clean water is staying pretty stable, so I think I'm like right at that equilibrium point. But taking on a few more duplicants will start consuming more water, which means I'm going to need a few more of these water-producing geysers. So I will show the overlays here. This is the plumbing overlay. Here is the automation overlay. Basically no automation at all. And then power, pretty straightforward as well. These thermal sensors are just set to turn on if the ambient temperature around the steam turbines is ever above 25. Temperature in this room Hopefully it doesn't get above 200. If I notice it getting a little too hot, then I'll just not refine anything. But getting the balance on the crude oil here is really important so that if something hot does try to leave, it's not going to immediately flash this into sour gas. Getting in a manufacturing hub was the big project I wanted to complete in this episode. Like I said, next episode we'll be getting into space and taking on some more duplicants. I've got basically the entire map exposed now. The only thing I can't see is the space biome. I really need to clean up the bottom of the map too. I don't like having all that water down there, and the CO2 pressure is also a problem. So along with some space stuff, I might also do some base cleaning stuff in the next episode. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.